Very good morning.
Good morning.
And thanks for your time this morning. So, is this a worrying finding for you? I mean, you know, it's very difficult in this day and age to expect that every child will have both parents living in the same house. So, what are the concerns here? Because, you know, not to take anything away from single parents, because many of them do amazing jobs as well. What are the concerns?
So I think you reiterated a very valuable point. A lot of the research does highlight, you know, lower school qualifications. They're talking about challenges with regards to less support, obviously, some attachment issues. But I do think, like you said, we are sometimes very harsh on single parents.
Yeah.
I think every parent tries to do the best they can do, and I think being a present parent is the most important thing.
So in these cases, are we talking about children who don't have both parents in their lives, where one is completely absent, or that they're just not in the same household?
Well, I suppose that aspect is in itself very difficult. I mean, what is defined as having parents who are present? Is it purely financially present? You know, so that's already the thing. I mean, a lot of parents, I think, are financially present and working very, very hard to give children, obviously, the best that they can do. But in that, you have to strike a balance, I believe, of being involved emotionally and present emotionally. Because I do think that's the other fact that's not taken into account by a lot of research, is the fact that we are, as parents, generally a major shaping force for our children.
So let's talk about what it does to a child to not have both parents in their lives. I mean, we're talking about things like we spoke about the cognitive development of children. Is it really something that makes a major dent in their personalities, in how they grow up, in how they develop?
Well, I think the problem is always with the stats. We're seeing a very simplistic view of just one parent or both parents being there equals a result, which is not the case. I think if you have a parent who can be involved and takes time and puts in effort, you can get the results. Obviously, it's a lot harder because there's one of you as opposed to two of you.
Yeah.
I think also the other reality is the vast majority, or a large portion of South Africa, because of historical reasons, grew up with grandparents. And I think grandparents can do fantastic work, but obviously there are limitations in terms of age, in terms of the areas in which people live, the services available.
Now, I had a discussion last week, I think it was the character company that I had in talking about raising boys, especially those who don't have male role models in their lives. Do we find that more often that is where we're seeing the absent parent, is where most often is that fathers are not in their lives, and are we seeing that it is making it more difficult for our young South African men to grow up?
There are some, that's a very heavily debated topic, and I think it's a bit of a minefield already about gender norms and expectations. Look, I do think the stats will highlight that a lot of young boys don't grow up with fathers in their family or in their lives. And I think in that also there's a huge lack of positive male role models. That is a reality that we have to look at. What does that mean? I mean, I suppose then especially with adolescence, you're going through adolescence as a young man without a male role model. And I think then it leaves space for often sometimes very detrimental or negative role models to take place. I mean, if we're thinking about youth becoming more involved with crime more frequently, and I think that's also one of the dangers with how we portray young males in our media as well.
And I think of particular concern is children who have just one parent and don't have both parents present in their lives. Is what is it actually doing to just, if I had to put it simply, their education? And does it impact? Does it impact on how you study, on what your school life is like, on how you socialize?
Sure.
Is that really a problem in 2019?
I suppose, again, where South Africa in 2019? We are in 2019 in some ways, and also we're a little bit lagging behind, I think. Look, I think already having one parent is the simple fact is that there's a socioeconomic limitation. That you're one parent providing for a child as opposed to two. So I think that's the one thing. Also in terms of your time, I don't think as a single parent you have as much time because you can't share the responsibility as equally. And look, again, like you said, there's some single parents who are doing fantastic work. But I do think that one needs to also realize there has to be a balancing of being present financially and being also present.
So, as a psychologist, do you see the difference in children who have that family with both parents, and then sometimes they're better off with one parent.
Sometimes they most definitely
fighting,
are.
There's no one to fight with, you know. There's nobody. There's one way of discipline. There's not two ways or conflicting ways. Also, there might be benefits to that also. But do you see the differences in the development of children with two parents and one?
Again, I don't think one can easily just make a blanket statement like that. I think I see the difference between very effective parenting and very ineffective parenting. And I think you highlighted a very valid point that sometimes a couple parent far better apart as opposed to together.
Yeah, there's no conflict and less fighting in the household.
And they can at least agree to things, hopefully.
Okay, so there's no one formula for this.
I don't think
like
there's
you
one
say,
formula.
It's personality driven. It's
there's
how
huge
you raise,
elements of personality. I mean, also you have difficult children. That is a reality as well. But I think if you can manage difficult children and not bring them into conflict, especially when you're talking about split homes, and I think the biggest thing there is for parents to be the parent and to be the adult and to work. You don't have to love each other. You don't have to enjoy each other's company, but you have to work together to parent.
And try not to, I suppose, that those who don't overcompensate for the other parent not being there.
Most definitely. That is a huge thing. Look, there's a fantastic study coming out now from the former University of Medinza about parental alienation with fathers who are now having negative relationships as a result of dynamics that are coming between them and their former partner.
Okay.
And I think that's in itself fascinating just to think about.
Okay, so sometimes two is not better than one.
No, sometimes two is not better than one, and sometimes also you just have to both be the parent and the adult.
Okay, so very hard for some of us. Thanks very much. Clinical psychologist Barry Viljoen there, just looking at the latest stats about what happens with the households of children who have two parents and those who have one.